Just wondering what that noise was.
Microphone?
Maybe.
My microphone's on.
Oh, maybe that's. No, you don't. Was it like that?
Okay, Mayor.
Good evening. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Note that all members of council are present. Disclosure of pecuniary interests. Seeing none, approval of agenda. Could I have a mover? Moved by Robert. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. There are no delegations or presentation. Adoption of minutes. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by Pat. All in favor? That's adoption of minutes from Tuesday, October 20th. Thank you. There's no business out of the previous meeting. New business, a 7.1 Township of Dubreuilville Proposed Regional Housing Initiative. There's the letter to council. Maury, if you would just like to give a brief overview of what this entails.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. At the recent Superior East Regional Mayors Group, Dubreuilville made a presentation on behalf of all the regional economic development officers in the region. And all communities are experiencing housing issues, mainly housing shortages at a time of high demand. So to address the issue, one approach that all regional communities are proposing to the mayors is that we engage with a company, and it's an association out of Alberta that has a broad experience with accessing funding through the Federation of Municipalities of Ontario's various grant programs to access funding on behalf of the regions to do a housing study. Now, the housing study may not in the short term address the housing problems that we're experiencing, but it would put together a framework and a strategy to address the housing situation, which could include in the long term, making application to available funding from organizations like the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation that has funding available for capital building of housing. On behalf of the regional mayors and EDOs, a motion is being put forward to council this evening that would support that this mayor and council support the concept of making application for funding to do a housing study, and we would support by motion to venture on that path. It is not a commitment to spend any funds or to hire any specific consultant, but just that we continue with our regional communities to approach a strategy to look at housing, and certainly would come back to council at any time that strategy is more defined.
Thank you. Any other questions? So we'll hear more about this. We'll just get on board with the other communities, and we'll see if they get any success to obtain funding. 7.2, we have a proposed 2021 council meeting scheduled dates. This is based on our procedural bylaw, and whenever there is a need to make an exception, then we do it. Notice the very first meeting, we normally meet the first Tuesday of the month, but because that's right after the holidays and it would be difficult to prepare the agendas, we will meet January 12th and 19th. Otherwise, it's the first and third Tuesday, except in July and August, and December, when there is only the one meeting in those months. Okay. That will come up for approval.
One question, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
And July and August, is that going to be changed from everyday operation to a full set meeting? Like in July, we used to have some holidays, we have people missing or something. But it's going to be a full meeting.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it will likely a corporate, a regular, and if necessary, an in-camera items if there are some.
So if you may, Mr. Mayor, Another reason to bring forth this schedule is to identify be a conflict for the majority of members of council. So this would be the time that we could suggest changes to this meeting date. So before we bring it to the next council meeting in at the end of November or in December, as long as we have the schedule approved by council before December 31st. So it gives us a little bit of time, and I wanted to share the dates so that council has the opportunity to look at those dates and compare with their calendars to see if there's going to be any conflicts. Also, with respect to our meeting schedule for 2020, in discussions that I've had with the mayor and with the CAO, we would like to recommend that the meeting in December be postponed by 1 week and have it held on December 15th. And if council concurs with that, then we'll have a motion prepared for the November 17th meeting to change that meeting date.
Okay, that works. Actually, a little later in the month is better to deal with all the business that comes up in the first couple of weeks of December.
And the CAO and I were thinking, because if we postpone the first meeting in January, it could be a long period in between meetings. So we thought if we postpone the December meeting to a little bit later, then it wouldn't be as long in between the meetings.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Move to item 7.3, curling ice installation. You had a fairly lengthy report from Alex. Alex, did you want to speak to the report before any questions for you?
Please.
Okay.
So in preparing this report, the first thing I want to say about it is it's something that we never ever thought we would be writing to council about. It was really difficult for us as staff to take this sort of overview and to look at this type of programming with a critical eye. It's something that obviously this year is a very different year for everything, and this is no exception. The numbers that we got and the discussions that we've had with the curling clubs essentially prompted us to do this review. So in reviewing curling for 2020, registration numbers are really down. They're down by approximately 50%. It could be a little bit more. We don't know the exact makeup of teams. And what that puts us in is a situation where we're looking at right now 4 to 6, but 4 confirmed teams per league, which essentially means 2 sheets per night instead of our usual 4+. So it's a really big drop. For the municipality, not only does it represent less people that we're serving, but it also represents a 50% decrease in revenue as well on a year that we're already struggling. So we did an analysis. It's contained in this report. There wasn't one reason where this registration drop was coming from. There was several. Some people were saying it's because they're healthcare workers. Some people were saying that they care for aged parents and they've really dropped off on all of the activities that they're doing. Some folks were referencing the lack of social time, and in particular the bar was a reason that folks were potentially uninterested in coming this year. As well as just an overall uneasiness of people in that particular demographic to come out and do things. It was a difficult recommendation to come to, but at this time we're recommending not installing the curling ice based on the number of folks. We also tried to put into that recommendation an understanding that that has a negative social effect on the community. And, you know, a lot of people might say, well, it's only socialization. It's really, really critical right now because so many of these other activities in our community that normally happen are not happening to have this type of social activity. When we were doing our analysis, we also looked at other activities that could be considered. And I don't want to put it to council one activity versus another activity, but I think that the message from staff is that we don't want to see this space empty. But we feel that there's more efficient use of municipal resources than the investment in time that installing ice creates relative to some of the other activities that we could be having to meet the same or similar needs in the community over similar demographics, and potentially even meeting more needs because the space goes from a single-use space to a multi-use space. In terms of cost was a really difficult one. You can see we did an analysis essentially based on compressor runtime data to come out with a rough cost for council. I've presented ICE cost to council before, and so you guys will likely know that it's really difficult to narrow down a very precise cost because the amount of variables that go into those types of calculations. So taking a 5-year average, we were looking at an approximate cost of $5,500 to put the ice in. That's just a 2-week install process. And then a rough $3,300 a week after that for the installation of ice, as compared to what we're currently forecasting at $300 a week revenue. Now, a big caution there, the community center in particular is not a business. We don't operate as part of a break-even. Recreation costs the community money, and in return, you get all of the benefits of recreation. So it's not just a simple dollars in, dollars out calculation. There's a lot more thought that we put into it, and most of that is represented in the report here. So at the end of the day, that's the direction that we have presented to council as staff, as our recommendation. It's the direction that we present based on what we feel is an appropriate use of the municipal resources that we have been given. But of course, that use, whether it's appropriate or not, is truly defined by council. So if council is okay with that type of loss and sees that the curling program is critical and needs to happen, then that's direction that you are welcome to give us. There's options here. The other options we've presented include other sports that meet those particular demographic needs. But at the end of the day, it's truly a decision for council. We stand by our recommendation, but there's no right answer here, unfortunately, at this point in time. So I'm certainly open to any questions about the contents of the report, how we came to certain calculations and numbers, anything that you may have.
I have some questions, but I'll let council go first. So Pat?
Yeah, I'm gonna use Robert's term, wow. This is quite a lengthy report, plus, did we just receive these letters at the end of it today? They weren't on my.
Yeah, some of them were pretty early,
Okay,
yeah, so
that's
it would have been
the reason I
Monday.
haven't had a chance to read these.
Yeah.
So I just want to let you know there, I didn't see the letters so today. Yeah, I'd like to start off with, and this is a tough one thing, how much discussion have we had with the user groups? And can we, I know there's people coming forward, more people coming now forward. And can we kind of do a media blitz a little before we even make a decision that there will be a cutoff date if we don't get more numbers? Something to that effect. Also, is it possible to only put ice in 2 sheets?
Answer your first question first, second question second. Is that
Okay, I got a bunch.
Okay. So first question, the reason we brought this report forward to council on this particular date is because normally right now curling ice is being installed. And so us as staff, we felt like this was the time to bring this to council, but that was a relatively tight turnaround. The numbers that we got from the curling clubs, we only really got the concrete numbers for them the Wednesday of last week, right? So yes, there is opportunity to, and to use a colloquial, kick the can down the road a little bit. We do have extra time. There's not like oh, we haven't installed curling ice now, so we can never install it. We can install it at any point this season. So if council would like to see us return to the table in a couple of weeks after doing further consultation, that is direction that you can give us as staff, absolutely. I think the consultation that we did with the curling clubs, we had we'll say 3 rounds of consultation. The initial consultation was really just going over our rules, answering those types of questions. The second round of consultation was post their registration to talk about numbers, what they felt, do they think it should go ahead or not, and answering those types of questions. And again, we got a very varied response, right? There were some folks who told me, yeah, you know what, we could live with the season off. There's other folks who said, no, you know what, if we lose it this season, we're really worried that we'd be losing it forever. And essentially every opinion in between those 2 variables, right? And then to really narrow it down, the third round of consultation was after we had decided as staff that we don't recommend going ahead. And that's what we put to the curlers is, listen, as staff, we can't recommend it going ahead. Therefore, we're bringing a report to council. And we gave them the opportunity to provide us with their feedback on that particular decision. But that was all things considered quite late in the game. You know, that was again that Thursday, basically after they gave us their final quote unquote numbers on Wednesday, and then they wrote they wrote a letter over the weekend. We received that over the weekend and put it to this report essentially Monday afternoon once we compiled everything. In terms of other user groups, I would say that the primary consultation was with the curlers. The rest of the information that we have in there was essentially based on an assessment done by staff, as well as talking with a couple of people who had previously expressed interest should things not happen or should there be space available in the community center. Your second question, could we put 2 sheets in? So yes, the cost of the ice would be exactly the same minus a couple hours of staff time to install the other 2 sheets. Reason being, we can't just have a pad cut in half. Like when we actually lay water on the pad, we have to lay water over the whole pad. So the whole cost will be the same. We talked to staff about doing 2 sheets or 3 sheets to space things out more for COVID safety. On the expense side of things, it changes essentially nothing or very little.
Yeah, because I remember back in the day, even with a walking thing down the middle of that ice.
Yeah.
Because we could put a barrier up and still use.
That was in the old curling rink.
Yeah.
There was a center walkway.
That's it.
But I'm just saying, we got cement now and the possibility of more user groups use that area, cut that place in half. Well,
Yeah, so
please,
No, I'm just saying there's 6 names.
can I finish what I'm saying? No, I'm just a possibility.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at doing something a little different. You know, like,
So the heat load would be reduced, but because of how the pad is built, so essentially under the concrete, there's a tube every 2 inches. And that goes all the way through the pad. There's no way to break that into half without installing some pretty interesting hardware that we don't have there right now. So if it was possible, it wouldn't be possible given our current setup to break that into half. We may be able to put some type of divider down, but that would, I'd have to do some digging onto how that would exactly work. But then the other side of the cold, and so in my mind, that would be too dangerous to operate anything on because it would be
I'm
a
just
temperature.
not today, but just looking forward to the future. You know, a little bit of a capital project, maybe looking at alternatives, you never know, just to utilize that area differently. I mean, we gotta think out of the box sometimes. But anyways, we'll leave it at that, just as a question. Your compressors.
Yep.
I know we talked about percentages into the rink and the curling rink. Do we actually got gauges or a system that, like, you know, when your compressor running, it's the same compressor, right?
Yeah.
So there's a compressor when it's feeding the curling rink, pick up more amperage? Or?
So yeah.
Yeah.
So how I did the runtime analysis is I based it off of the 2 weeks before we install curling ice, the 2 weeks of, and the 2 weeks after. And so in that analysis, basically, I can show that if this is the runtime before and this is the runtime during the install, the difference can be attributed to curling ice. And then afterwards, you've got a baseline here and then a second baseline after we install the ice where the heat load is diminished because we're not actually putting water on and freezing it. And so that works out to be the difference. So as far as I can tell without specific metering, which would, again, not provide a full answer, it is about 25%. And I think for the purposes of this report and this calculation, that was pretty acceptable to me to give a ballpark of how much is attributable to that.
And as we put ice on, and let's say now, you're gonna get a warm spell, so we don't put ice on this week. Let's say second week in December, would that make it easier on the system to put ice in versus now?
Yeah, so the reason I did an assessment based on a weekly average versus based on a monthly average is because the outside temperature is essentially the number one effect in our facility on the cost of installing ice. So the later you kick that can down the road, the better it is in terms of cost, yes. So, and I think that's something that it's worthwhile to say here as well, is just if council were to make a decision to not install curling ice at this point, 2 weeks down the road, 3 weeks down the road, a month down the road, we can essentially turn that switch on anytime the community is looking for it, right? So, you know, besides the diminishing returns of, well, do we flip it on in March for a set of games in April? For the most part, we can make that decision further down the road as well if conditions become more favorable. And it's something that I indicated in my report. If we were to get another 2 or 3 teams show up and all of a sudden it became, you know, more of a community push to have this, then that would also change our recommendation to staff. And at that point, just like in the rest of the reopening plans, there's a major change in service level, we would return to council and say, this is what we're recommending, and get council's direction on it.
And one statement I'd like to bring to notice that you used a line in your report that staff believe there are alternatives should be considered that are more in line with the municipality's priority. Is that community trying to make cost effective, not paying the user pays, or what's that?
So
Where's that going?
yeah, my particular vision of that is it's our priority within our department to provide effective recreation services to the community. So to me, what that means is I have a small, relatively speaking, pool of resources, right? And so it's my job to serve the most amount of people in the community with that pool. So if I take that pool and I serve 10 people, or I take that pool and I serve 50 people, I think that it's my priority as a staff member to serve 50 people instead of 10, right? So it was an indication that I don't think running the arena is all about cost, and I don't want to make this into a we're not generating enough revenue, therefore we're not doing it. It's about how many people we can serve with those funds that we're given by the taxpayer.
And if you had a situation where you got, where is this? I'm trying to get back to this here. You had 80 curlers and 79 pickleball. What would we do?
Really tough question. I think that curling would take precedence as the more established sport in the community. That being said, the pickleballers are also welcome to appeal to council on those grounds too. But I would say that at this time, curling would take precedence based on its established nature.
Yeah, like I don't look at any of them as they're all good. I feel curling can only be done on the ice.
Yes.
Pickleball can be done in a separate school gymnasium, a high school gymnasium. There's other alternatives. So I wanted to make that point. Yeah, and the next thing I just want to say, I've just seen the letters. I opened it up just now and I didn't realize there's letters in there. So my feeling is that I'd like to see this report given more time to digest it. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you.
I just have 2 questions.
Sure.
I'm sorry I interrupted you, Pat. There are more men's teams now, and I was the president of women's curling for many, many years, and because of COVID and everything going on and getting the kids all registered and everything, I think you're going to have more people, and I'm for putting the ice in.
Robin? I agree with you, Mitch, that I would like to see the ice going as well. I think the numbers that you saw for people holding back, same as every year, there's always that rush right before it starts again, and it will be used in this year.
The staff's not going to change it, whether exactly so.
I'm sorry, Bill, if you could speak just a little louder.
Robert and the rest of them put the ice in and get rid of this. None of that costs us any more staff, so.
I think when we decided to put the ice in the arena, we did go around and get numbers from every group.
we had some information, but not all the information. And I think in some of the adult hockey, it's not all returning as it was last year. Is that correct?
I would say that in the whole rink, it's not returning as of last year. And that's based on the fact that we needed to push cleaning around. So you're right, we didn't have numbers in terms of population. We did have numbers in terms of ice time commitments.
I think now we're at, I understand we may be at 6 men's team and four ladies, 4 men. One of the things that I would like to actually establish tonight is there's always been the question about whether or not we are going to provide the bar facilities for events like that. I think if in other venues in the municipality, restaurants, bars, I'm assuming I haven't been in the bowling alley, but I'm assuming that they have their license as well, do they not? So, you know, the question should not be if we're going to do it. The question should be, we will do it, can we do it safely, and let's make a plan, and let's say that we're working to ensure that when we have curling, we'll have a bar as well for, you know, someone after hockey or other functions that can operate. We have a limit of 50 in there, I understand. Maury, is that correct?
I believe so.
In the lounge, it's 27,
Okay.
based on
But
space.
in order, rather than have the, it closed off, the curling section closed off in the lounge, could we not open it up? I certainly agree with colleagues here. I would vote to keep it open. I believe if we close it, we may never see curling again. That was one of the comments in one of the letters, and I certainly agree with that. And I realize we are going to, I mean, we always see a loss in recreation. It's understood. It's a service that we provide to the municipality. And in this particular year, I think it's all the more reason to ensure that we provide that service. It's going to be a long winter, and if people can get out and socialize and safely curl and do other activities, then I think we should do it. I certainly want to see the sport of pickleball develop in our community, and as a council, I want to say that we will look to find ways of creating pickleball courts in our community to make that sport available to members of our community. But right now, I think it's about curling. We have someone in recreation. There's a version of curling. It's a combination of shuffleboard and curling, and it requires 2 people on each team. So obviously you have the distancing, and the rules are a little different. It's a quick game, fun game, but it's another way of promoting the use of that on a Friday night, particularly if there's the opportunity to at least socialize safely in the lounge. I think we should be trying to find solutions to make those activities available to people in our community. I know this past summer with the Marina Open and with the Golf Course Open, it was a great way for people to just get out and relax and enjoy the company of others and stay active. So I would support the idea of moving forward with the curling ice and working as a staff to you know, to promote other uses, to get the lounge and the bar available so that people can socialize afterwards. I think that's a direction I would like us to go in.
That's the best time for it.
Yeah, and I think that's turned some people off because, you know, they like the idea of it being a complete evening. So, you know, it may only be curling with 3 people, but, you know, one person is moving in and out of the game, but at the same time that you can, social distance, but still have some camaraderie after the game. And I think that's extremely important.
Yeah.
Especially at this COVID time right now, I think it's extremely important that we should, support our community.
So I think, we've received the report, but in terms of direction, we want some specific direction from council tonight, or like I would say, call up the executive of the curling rink, tell them council is willing for you guys to go forward. Work with your staff about coming up with a plan to have the bar open and those facilities available, and then work with the community to see if there's other ways of socially making the ice available to family groups, on weekends or something along that lines, just as a way of getting people out to do things.
And Mayor, I don't believe it's required to have a motion for council to indicate that direction, as that already is the direction. So I think Alex will work with his team to provide the members of the curling clubs with a date for reopening, which is probably about December 1st as he gets together the plan or thereabout. Oh,
Yeah, we have the backup plan. So I was expecting that you guys could have told me to start the plan tomorrow, and so we're essentially ready to do that. So
But it's your decision as to when you like to start, but council will support the curling community and your staff. And it's good to know that there's all those other activities we can, hopefully we can find places for it. I know years ago there used to be a friend of mine was in a walking program around the arena in Sault Ste. Marie downtown, and I know if they're not available at the schools, that certainly we can try to find times. Again, I know you want to limit your contacts with people, etc. But if there's any way our facilities can be made available to the public, we'll try hard to open them up.
Are the schools using their own?
I don't know, but no.
problem and why a lot of these groups have approached us is because we're essentially the only space that's open for recreation right now, which, don't get me wrong, we're really, really happy to have people. I brought along, so this is our schedule as it stands right now, where we've just integrated seniors programming. So you can imagine when we put adult programming in there, because of the amount of cleaning that we're doing in between groups, that's the biggest challenge right now, is to find the space and the time to be able to accommodate those events safely.
So Mayor, I had one other comment. If we leave this with Alex and his team, we may come back to council once Alex has opportunity to talk to the curling clubs. We may look at a motion of council if it's deemed through conversations and consultations that the curling season be reduced. And we may look at a schedule based on when the curling clubs are ready to start, and maybe look at ending the season a little bit earlier, but we would come back through Alex to council once he has opportunity to engage. So that's when we might bring a motion forward.
In the years when I was on the curling rink board of directors, when the club was owned by the members, there were a number of people who would not join until 1st of January. Particularly a lot of the members that were businessmen and businesswomen in the community, because Christmas was a busy season, and we had a lot of stores. We 3 menswear and bookstore and all the different clothing stores. So there were quite a number of people extremely busy. So rather than starting in November, they start in January. So you had the schedule for 6 weeks, and then your teams expanded and they had another schedule for the next 3 months. Hopefully, if it starts a little later, that's fine. As long as we can get some activity for people. Well, thank you very much. I think what's good about these discussions is you're giving us opportunities to look at things, and helps us to make a decision. So thank you, Alex. So there's no in-camera session. Our next meeting is Tuesday, November 17th. And a motion to close, moved by Mitch, all in favor? It's carried, thank you. We'll move directly into the regular council meeting. Call the meeting to order at 7:04. Notice that all members are present. Disclosure of pecuniary interests. I have a declaration. I, Mayor Ron Rhodey, declare potential indirect pecuniary interest on agenda item 12.7, a license to occupy agreement with Michigan Golf Course. For the following reason, I am a shareholder of the Michigan Golf Club. The shares have no value, but out of an abundance of caution, I'm declaring a conflict. I'm in the process of returning the share to the golf club. Approval of agenda.
Moved by Councillor Hatfield, seconded by Councillor Tate. Resolved that the agenda for the regular meeting of council scheduled for Tuesday, November 3rd, 2020 be approved as amended.
All in favor? It's carried. There are no delegations or presentations. There's a list of announcements and other meetings. Adoption of minutes. We have a resolution.
Moved by Councillor Tate, seconded by Councillor Hatfield. Resolved that the following minutes of the meetings of council be adopted as presented. A, minutes of a regular meeting of council held on Tuesday, October 6, 2020 is contained on pages 1 to 8, inclusive of the minute book. And B, minutes of a special meeting of council held on Tuesday, October 27, 2020 is contained on pages 1 to 3, inclusive of the minute book.
Any questions? All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Staff reports, a resolution to receive Alex's curling ice installation report. So is that just to have that received it? We're not following the recommendation. It's just that the report itself will be on file or,
Mr. Mayor, can we go back to the consent agenda?
sorry.
Thank you. On the first page.
Sorry, thank you. Consent agenda, we have a resolution.
Moved by Councillor Hatfield, seconded by Councillor Tate. Resolved that the items listed under consent agenda, items 7.2 to 7.6, be approved as recommended.
All in favor?
I got one question for you.
Sure.
I'd just like to comment on Mr. Romer's resignation. He's deeply missed by all of us from the committee because he was a great asset for us at the ice candle. He worked hard. And he's one of us that made ice candle a big hit. He's going to be missed quite really. So I just want to wish him through council and mayor best wishes in the future for him. And I hope he will come back as a volunteer and hope to get him back in somehow. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Yes, I'm aware that Matthew has worked very hard on this meeting. So, and also like to the appointment that's been gone through. Good.
Yes. She's our vice chair.
Okay.
Yes.
That's Danette.
Yes.
Yes, that's correct.
Great. Well, congratulations to her. Super. Okay. So getting down, now we're at staff reports. So,
Moved by Councillor Chason, seconded by Councillor Reese. Resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of Wawa does hereby receive staff report AP 2020-14, 2020 curling ice install, a copy of which is attached here too.
all in favor? It's carried. Thank you. We moved down to item 12, bylaws. If we have a motion, if Mr. Chason can move, Mr. Reed second, motion to sever 12.7 from that.
Mr. Mayor, can we go to item 12.2 just for the third and final reading of the site plan agreement, then move on to the other
third and final 12.1.
12.2.
Okay.
Moved by Councillor Reese, seconded by Councillor Chason, resolved that the following bylaw be read a third and final time and finally passed, and that the mayor and clerk do sign and seal the same. Any rule of this council to the contrary notwithstanding, bylaw number 3350-20 to enter into an agreement with Villard Construction Limited, agent for Level Plains Enterprise Inc., respecting the site control area for the construction of temporary housing units.
All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. So, you want to sever that now?
Councillor Chason and Councillor Reese, do you agree to sever?
Yes.
Okay. So I'll read the motion with the bylaw severed. Moved by Councillor Chason, seconded by Councillor Reese, resolved that the following bylaws be introduced and read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed, and that the mayor and clerk do sign and seal the same. Any rule of this council to the contrary notwithstanding, bylaw number 3351-20 to confirm the proceedings of council at its meeting held on the 27th day of October 2020 and the 3rd day of November 2020. Bylaw number 3352-20 to adopt municipality of Walla policy number FT001 procurement. Bylaw number 3353-20 to authorize the sale of municipal land located at 135 Mills Drive, roll number 577000003 304460000 in the municipality of Walla to 1956674 Ontario Inc. And bylaw number 3355-20 to authorize the execution of an agreement between the Ontario Ministry of the Solicitor General and the Corporation of the Municipality of Walla for the provision of police service under Section 10 of the Police Services Act.
All in favor? It's carried. So I'll turn the chair over to Mr. Tate. And you might as well close the meeting, and then I'll meet you in camera. Thank you.
What am I doing?
So I have a motion to give the three readings for bylaw number 3354-20. And it's moved by Councillor Chason, seconded by Councillor Reese. Resolved that the following bylaw be introduced and read a first, second, and third time and finally passed, and that the deputy mayor and clerk do sign and seal the same. Any rule of this council to the contrary notwithstanding. Bylaw number 3354-20 to authorize the corporation of the municipality of Wawa to enter into a license to occupy agreement with the Mishpacotton Golf Club Limited.
All in favor? Motion passed.
Okay, thank you.
Now you can call the motion to move into closed session.
I make a motion to move into
Moved by Councillor Reese, seconded by Councillor Chason. Resolved that this committee proceed in camera at 7:11 p.m. in order to address the following matters pertaining to a personnel issue, staffing, and it's related to a personal matter about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees.
all in favor?
So there's no business arising from the closed session. Our next meeting date is Tuesday, November 17th. We have a motion to adjourn.
Moved by Councillor Chason, resolved that the meeting be adjourned at 7:49 PM.
All in favor? It's carried. Thank you.